Well, good evening. It's 6 o'clock, and we will call the meeting of Planning and Zoning Commission, July the 16th, 2024, to order. Roll call, let the record reflect that all members are present, including Nate Treadaway remotely. Approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
With the,
We need to adjust the agenda because item number 6 has been withdrawn.
substitute motion, I move we approve with the removal of item 6.
I second that substitute motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
It's Nate.
Thank you, Nate. Okay, the agenda is approved. Minutes from the previous meeting being June the 18th, 2024. Has everyone had a chance to read the minutes?
Yes.
Any changes, deletions, additions? None. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I move we approve.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No? Minutes are approved. Report from Mr. Code Officer.
I don't have anything for the planning commission this evening, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Old business? No old business. Under new business. Item number 1 is a request for a COA at 423 East Spring Street for an addition. Mr. Code Officer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a pretty straightforward certificate of appropriateness request. It's for a building addition onto an existing commercial building that was converted from a single-family residence some number of years ago. They currently have parking on their site. As you can see on their site plan, they're making no changes other than adding the building to the rear. I think the plan has a small error on it because the proposed addition is flush with the rear of the building itself. And staff sees no issues with the proposed addition. It'll be a hardy siding on the back of the building. As you've seen in your elevations in the report, it's pretty straightforward. The recommendation, approval as submitted without conditions.
Thank you. Is there anyone present to speak for this request? Okay, would you come to the podium and give us your name, please?
My name is Octavia Earl, and I'm Tanya, the owner of the building. And we're just expanding for more business in the community.
Are there any questions?
None.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone present to speak in opposition of this request? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, no. The request is approved. Item number 2 is for a COA at 424 East Spring Street for parking lot renovation. Mr. Code Officer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the existing fish thrift store on East Spring Street, right across the street from the COA you just heard. They are asking to take their unpaved parking lot that's on the east side of the building and convert it to a paved parking lot. And they're asking also to pave some portions of the area in the rear of the building that was formerly used for loading years ago in the old Coke building there. They're asking to pave that as well. They are showing a designated landscape area on the plan. We did note in the staff report we would prefer there be some parking lot trees, shrubs, and other items added to the end-of-row planters for the parking lot itself. They did begin the paving of the parking, and we had to ask them to stop so they could go through this process and obtain a COA approval. So you can see an aerial photograph, just a little bit of paving that's out there. It was done without a permit, but they're going to get that squared away after the approval, or after the consideration of this approval. And the recommendation is approval as submitted without conditions.
Thank you. Is there someone present to speak for this request? Good evening.
Ladies and gentlemen of the commission, staff, how you doing? I'm here just to represent the fish tonight. did the site plan for them as a engineer, site engineer for them, so I could try to answer any questions y'all might have.
Give her your name.
Tom Garrett.
Thank you, Tom. Are there any questions concerning? Okay. Thank you, sir. Is there anyone present to speak in opposition of this request? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move we approve.
Second.
To approve and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All opposed, no. Request is approved. Item number 3, a request for a COA at 1001 Pavilion Parkway for a new fast food restaurant. Mr. Kodos.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is basically the second lot on the right as you're going into the Monroe Pavilion project. What is requested is a fast food restaurant with a drive-through. The site, as it's shown on the site plan behind you on the screen, they currently have an existing access cut off of Pavilion Parkway for a shared driveway with the first lot and the proposed lot for the improvement of the fast food restaurant. They're proposing an access drive to loop around the building itself with a drive-through lane. They're showing parking in front of the building and on the side of the buildings between the property next door and the parking in the front between Pavilion Parkway and the building itself. They did include a landscape plan that will include landscaping along a buffer on Highway 78 and landscaping in the front of the area of the site. The building itself is pushed pretty far back from Pavilion Parkway. The other COAs you've seen, we've had the buildings pushed closer to Pavilion Parkway. And this one is set back, I believe the building's approximately 175 feet, give or take, off of Pavilion Parkway. It's set pretty far back. But they are proposing a pretty traditional fast food building. It's brick veneer and EIFS siding for a proposed Chipotle building. They did include a complete sign package in there that complies with our ordinance to non-illuminate signs from 78, and then there are internally illuminated signs facing Pavilion Parkway, but that complies with our ordinance. The recommendation is approval as submitted with one condition, that the developer work with staff to relocate the building on the site to comply with our minimum 42-foot pavement depth for corridor property, and that would be pushing the building up some on the site. But the condition is worded as the site layout shall be redesigned to relocate the building closer to Pavilion Parkway. Parking shall be redesigned so that no more than 42 feet of pavement depth is between the building and Pavilion Parkway. And the developer shall present a modified site plan package to staff for approval prior to submitting their site development plans. Essentially, the condition allows the developer to work with us so we can modify that here tonight without you having to specifically define what that site plan is going to look like, because I don't think they've had an opportunity to redesign the site based on these comments. But this gives them the chance to work with staff, and we can hopefully come up with some compromise to move the building up some. They have some drainage issues on this particular property, just one of the reasons why they've had to push the building back, just to give you some idea of what's going on. But I'll let the applicant go into further detail on that if necessary, but that's all that I have.
Okay, thank you. Is someone present to speak for this request?
Yes, for the record, John Argo with MAB. We're the owner of the lot, the developer of the Monroe Pavilion Shopping Center. We're generally in agreement with the staff recommendation. We've been working back and forth with Brad on how to massage some of this. Just quickly for the board, if you'd like, we wanted to show, it is a Chipotle restaurant. They have signed a lease. It's a build-to-suit, so we're basically building their prototype. The architectural materials we're going to be using will be corresponding to those on the shopping center, the brick, the metal, the storefront, the glass, et cetera. This is just a quick overview. Monroe Pavilion Shopping Center sits here. This is the shared entrance. Brad mentioned the hotel lot next door. You can see that we've got the building centered on the lot. Some of you may recall, we actually got the development plans were originally approved, I think, like in 2019, maybe early 2020. We mass graded approximately 100 acres. So this property is already graded. There's actually a building pad graded in here at about elevation 491. we have the building positioned on that building pad, and that pad's already compacted to receive a building. So to us, that's the logical building location, and we'll work with Brad on how to massage that, trying to stay within that compacted building pad area as best we can. Let's look to the architecture just real quick, if you can. I guess this is in your packet, but we've got an iron spot brick. This dark brick pattern is, we've got dark brick and numerous buildings on the shopping center. The light gray ephes band that's sprinkled throughout the entire shopping center. The dark storefront and the dark metal canopy and awnings are in numerous buildings. Several of the out parcel pad buildings in the parking lot of the shopping center have this feature. So Chipotle was willing to take their building and adapt it where it's kind of a kissing cousin or a first cousin to the architecture of the shopping center. So we think it blends in really well. That said, if you have questions, we're happy to answer any of those. Otherwise, we're in agreement with the staff recommendation. Be happy to sit down, and if y'all favor us with an approval tonight, be happy to sit down with staff and kind of work through the little details and tweaks to get it ship shape where we get ready to build. And these folks are anxious. They're happy to be in Monroe. They're anxious to get open. We're glad to get them, and we'll try to accommodate. Again, we've always had a good working relationship with Logan, Brad, the staff. I've appeared before y'all numerous times, and hopefully we can continue that relationship, and it'll yield a nice Chipotle restaurant very soon for all of us. So thank you.
Okay, so you're in agreement with the conditions that he's...
Yes, sir. We've discussed those with Brad, how he might implement those, and we'll get with him with a modified plan and kind of tweak through it. I think we're very, very close.
Okay. Any questions?
Not for me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is there anyone present to speak in opposition to this request? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve with conditions.
Condition,
Yep.
yes.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Request is approved with condition. Number 4, request for conditional use permit at 303 South Broad Street, Alpha Omega Private School. Mr. Code Officer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The requested conditional use, it is a conditional use in the B2 zoning district and your central business district. It's currently currently proposed at the building at 303 South Broad, existing building, existing parking, been there for a number of years. They're proposing to be a tenant inside this office building, and they provided us a floor plan. There we go. A floor plan. They'll be in the center unit essentially, but this is a private school. It's primarily to focus on providing services for home-based or homeschool children, I believe is what the premise is behind the program itself. I'll let the applicant go into further details about the school itself, but pretty straightforward request. The recommendation is approval as submitted without conditions.
Someone present to speak for this request?
Hi, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. My name is Chuck Ross. I'm with Powell and Edwards. We're at 10 Lumpkin Street in Lawrenceville, and I'm here with the director of the Alpha Omega Preparatory Academy, Mr. John Davenport. We're very blessed to be here. This is a great opportunity. I left you a small handout. I think Mr. Callender did an excellent job of showing most all the same pictures that I was going to show you all. But they operate a school that's been in existence since 2006. It still is in Covington. That's their main campus. They operate a fully accredited school that's known as a non-traditional education facility. And what that means is that up to 60%, or at least 60%, of their education is home-based. But then the remaining 40%, they do go to classrooms and they get instruction with teachers. All the teachers are accredited. They all have at least a bachelor's degree, some with master's degrees. They have full qualifications for Hope Scholarship, for the Zell Miller Scholarship. They have many of them that have gone on to get master's degrees after college. So it's a very successful program. In fact, they've had zero issues as far as any students acting up. They've had no physical altercations in the history of their school. Now, this particular location is more of a satellite location to aid their Walton County students. There will only be 5 full-time faculty members that will be on campus, and typically the students will only be from 2 to 5 students in the building at any one time. So it's not like you're going to have 20 kids all coming in there trying to park. I did provide a good overhead on the, I believe it's the 3rd page. Gives you a good idea of the parking that is available. This is Dr. Shaw's building. I'm sure you all are familiar with it. They would be renovating one of the 2 interior suites. So there's basically 4 suites at that dentist office, and this would be one of the interior suites where they'll be. So there's no parking issue. There's not going to be any problem, again, with the students running around or anything like that. It'll be a very minimal, I guess, intrusion of use. So I'm happy to answer any other questions that you all have.
What grade levels will you be working with?
Can you repeat that, please?
6 through 12.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Is there anyone present to speak in opposition to this request? Seeing none, entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
All opposed, no. Request is approved. Number 5 is a request for a conditional use at 114 South Broad Street for a retail wine shop. Mr. Kodoff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a conditional use in your central business district and the B2 zoning of the property itself. They are requesting for a retail wine shop and the existing, as you can see, the Broad Street Boots location. That is the location of the proposed business. They're at 114 South Broad. Older existing building in downtown, not many details to provide in their request other than the building exists. And like another conditional use permit that you've seen in the past, it's going to occur inside of an existing building for retail wine sales. And it's pretty straightforward. The recommendation is approval as submitted without conditions. I'll let the applicant give you greater detail about the proposed operation.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone present to speak for this request?
Good evening. My name is Jessica Murphy.
Okay, tell us about your wine shop.
We simply want to offer the community an opportunity to taste wines from various regions around the country, and we think it's a perfect complement to the restaurants and the other businesses in downtown Monroe. I live golf cart distance away, and I love downtown Monroe, and we just see that it would be a complement to the existing businesses here.
Okay. Any questions?
So you're just doing wine tastings, no food or anything?
No, we are doing food.
Okay. So will it be like a full restaurant?
No, we are not trying to be the Row or the Brown Fig, but we are offering some food. I think the technical term is a warming kitchen.
Okay.
So we will not have a range or a hood, but we will be warming some pre-made things and offering cheese and typical complements to wine.
Okay.
So you'll have seating, like a bar area type offering?
Multiple seating. Right now, we think we'll have seating for, I think it's 40 people. So it's kind of some living room settings and then some banquet table settings and then a few bistro seats and a very small bar, I think 4 to 5 bar stools.
Okay.
Would this wine be available only in the store and not take any cups out?
Well, it's according to the ordinances in the city. I mean, we are doing wine tasting, so whatever is permitted.
Can you do to-go cups? Yes.
You sell bottles also, is that correctly?
Yes, sir. That is our priority, although we hope to provide a unique experience for tasting wine as well.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone present to speak in opposition to this request? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve?
Motion to approve,
Second?
and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, no. Request is approved. Item number 6 has been withdrawn. So we will go to item number 7. A request for a rezone at 1125 North Broad Street from B3 to PRD/PCD. Mr. Code Officer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I did want to say there was a substantial amount of detail involved in this particular rezone request, and I appreciate the Planning Commission's attention and the time you've taken to review their pattern book. We provided that to you several weeks ago, and I'm not going to cover all of those intimate details tonight. I'm going to try to hit some broad strokes of the proposed request, and hopefully you've had a chance to digest all the information that was included in their proposed pattern book. But I'll briefly go through the request itself just to cover some of the major topics of it. But it is a request for a rezone from B3 to PRD and PCD. The proposed planned residential area of the project is approximately 55.5 acres, give or take, and the proposed commercial area is a little over 50 acres. They provided the zoning plan that you see before you that shows the two different areas. The planned commercial district area itself will be closer to the intersection of Charlotte Rowell Boulevard and Highway 11, and the planned residential area would be on the southwestern side of the site along Charlotte Rowell Boulevard, north of the Monroe Pavilion area. I'm not going to read all the site data to you. This does cover a lot of the details of the site, but just broadly, there are approximately going to be over 1,000 residential units inside the project, and a gross commercial square footage of roughly a little over 500,000 square feet. Those are just some highlights of the proposed development. There are a lot of specific details, as you can see, that were provided, and that was also in your packet. A very detailed illustrative master plan was included in the pattern book, and hopefully you had a chance to review that and see the layout of the various components of the project itself and all the different land uses that will be included in the project itself. I'm not going to go into the specific details of where everything is located in the project on this map, but it did give you some idea of the complexity of the project itself, that it is a true mixed-use project. There are proposed 7 access points to the site. There were approximately 4 off Charlotte Rowell Boulevard, 2 off of Highway 11, and then 1 would be an extension from the Monroe Pavilion project itself, from an extension of Pavilion Avenue, if I always get that one mixed up, would extend north. Currently, Pavilion Avenue is just on the right side of, I believe it's Planet Fitness, and that road terminates right before the Transcontinental Pipeline. They propose to extend that up into the site and connect it into the project. There were character areas on their plan. Hopefully you've had a chance to kind of understand what those were about in the project itself. These are going to be the guiding factors for each part of the project. They have the specific details and the standards that were in the pattern book itself as far as the dimensional standards, the certain architectural requirements, and the lot layout standards were also laid out in the character area in the pattern book itself. I'm not going to get into those details, but as you can see, it was a pretty robust plan that dealt with the character area 4. I'll start with that one. It's the lighter blue shown on the plan. It was the area that would have dealt more with your mixed use and commercial areas and a little bit more of your high intensity, sort of lot impacts and Character Area 3 is like the light orange character, it's more residential in nature. And then the green is your natural and civic area. They do propose to develop the project in phases. The green phase, as you can see on there, that is phase 1. Phase 2 would be the orange, and then the remaining phases, Fit 3 and 4, is red and blue. Just in my short and brief summary, I wish I could do more to provide you better details just in this presentation, but I'm going to let the applicant go further than I have done here. But our summation of the project itself was that this is our ideal mixed-use walkable neighborhood if developed as planned. And if it's developed to those standards, it'll be an asset to the city and it'll be an example to surrounding communities for smarter development. We did propose there be 3 conditions, and I'm happy to read those, Mr. Chairman. The first condition was prior to preliminary plat submittal, developer shall perform a traffic study for the development. Any and all necessary improvements identified in the traffic study shall be represented on the preliminary plat and all subsequent plans and plats. Prior to preliminary plat submittal, the developer shall enter into a fully executed development agreement with the City of Monroe. And finally, existing trees shall be retained and preserved throughout the areas in the development designated as Character Area 1, Natural Area, or Open Space. And existing trees shall be retained and preserved in areas designated as Character Area CV or Civic Area wherever practical retention of those trees are possible. And that's all that I have, Mr. Chairman. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very
at the
much.
appropriate time.
Is there someone present to speak for this request?
Yes, sir. I'm Brian Wright. I'm the principal of Town Planning and Urban Design Collaborative, here representing the project. Have a presentation. Brad did a great job of giving a lot of the highlights of it, so that'll make me be able to go faster. So if we could pull up that.
They're working on it.
Okay, good. I've hit the button. There we go. Thank you so much. All right. So there's a lot of slides, so I'm going to go fast because I know I don't have much time. So project overview, you just saw the site is adjacent to the new YMCA site, just to the north of the Publix Pavilion Shopping Center. Obviously a prominent location as a gateway into the downtown area. And there you go. This is the old historic Breedlove Dairy Farm. We are working on the sort of last bits of it, originally 787 acres, and has been started to transform over the years into different things. We really wanted to kind of lean into the history and understand this, the site, especially since the historic farmstead is there in our area. Here's some great drone shots that the owner has provided. It's a beautiful piece of property. If you haven't been out there, I encourage you to get a tour. And one of the prominent features that you can obviously see from far and wide is this amazing, gigantic silo. It's one of the largest silos that I've seen around. So the existing zoning is the Highway Business District B3. And this is a unique project because this is a project that's based on vision and design principles as opposed to just providing housing or whatever the case may be. So here are the principles that we're operating under. Our first principle is placemaking. So we want to create a place for people to go and experience and sort of do life, be it those who live in the community or those who visit. We want to be working with nature, so preserving those existing trees. Condition is certainly no problem. We want to go even beyond that as best we can. We want to have a mix of uses so that you can have your daily needs met on site. One of the things that we know is as development occurs, you bring in new people stuff, and so now they start causing traffic problems. So we want to have as much we call internal capture in the site, so that somebody who's living here can walk or bike to get their needs met without having to leave, and stuff if they're going to like a weekly trip to the grocery store or something. But we have the grocery store right next door, so you have a variety of housing types and sizes. types of people at different stages of life living within the community. And so we know we can accomplish that by having different housing types and sizes. So the upper left image is actually a multifamily building. It's a 4 or 6 unit building. Then you can see on the top right the little cottage court made of tiny houses there. Bottom left are townhouses, obviously a single family detached on the right. And then we have everything in between. Also in these mixed use areas, having people living above shops in some situations as well. We want to have safe and walkable streets. We want this to be a healthy community. As I said, people can walk to their daily needs or bike to them. But if you don't have streets that are designed for pedestrians and cyclists as well as for cars, then people tend to not want to walk. So that's going to be an important consideration. We've been working with the engineering and fire department to understand how that can work. And then having an extensive network of trails and park spaces, not just in sort of the leftover areas that are not suitable for building, but also within the heart of each of the different neighborhood areas would have its own neighborhood park as well. So the illustrative master plan was created through a design charrette process. We had a week-long public design process. Everyone was invited to come. We started with blank sheets of paper, and by the time we were done, we had primarily what you see in the illustrative plan I'm about to show you. We had technical meetings with different topics people were able to participate in, and it was quite exciting. The master plan is set up, as Brad said, to have a mix of different types of housing and types of uses. It looks a bit like a patchwork here, but one of the things that does is actually makes it really interesting. So this is the intersection of Charlotte Rowell and Highway 11. So this is sort of one of our main commercial and mixed-use areas here. Have a large-scale civic space here for people to gather. You'd have shops and things, restaurants, people living above, all facing onto the civic space. And this starts to define that corner. So as people come into the downtown, this would be something you would pass and see. The whole area is set up so that there's shared parking that's hidden in the rear rather than having parking lots out front. You have a mix of live work where somebody could live above their shop. You have townhouses as well. You have small multifamily buildings, like, as I said, the darker color are the mixed-use buildings. And then here you can start to see one of our neighborhood parks. And in fact, this park, that red dot right there, is the silo. And so we featured that in the park. And so as the view down the street actually caps off with the view of the silo. And then as you're coming in from 11, you turn this corner, you see the silo. And then coming in here, you see the silo as well. Coming in off of the new roundabout that's going in there, you start to see some multifamily buildings, apartment houses, some mixed use, some live works, some townhouses. These are actually facing onto this preserved green space with trails and things, preserving the most important natural areas. And one of the things you'll notice is that we actually have a whole green network that runs all the way through the site. And that helps us with our not only our open space and wildlife habitat, but also our stormwater strategy can all tie into that as well. Moving in, you have another neighborhood center here. This is the historic farmstead. It's not currently in our parcel, but we've drawn a plan for it. And the idea that we hope to do is to make it a farm park. So it's a community amenity and saving the old buildings and sheds that are there and tying that all into community gardens and those things as well. And then it would share parking with some of the mixed-use town center areas, so you'd have plenty of parking for people coming to the park. We have another neighborhood center, the large park space. There's a tree row that runs through, and so we've saved the tree row and the tree groupings, and all these buildings actually face onto that. Our major, our sort of main thoroughfare network kind of runs through, and this is the major pivot point to take you north and south and east and west. Coming in from the south, the Pavilion Shopping Center is here. We have set up so that we've got townhouses, some small-scale apartment houses coming up, and this is the experience that you'll see coming into another one of our neighborhood centers with a large green space here with live-work buildings, so it's a small commercial node and a little bit of a mixed-use building there. In the back here, we actually have some tiny houses that are oriented around an existing tree row that we've preserved, and then we're showing connections into adjacent properties that we can stub in, and hopefully one day those properties will connect into it. Coming in off of Charlotte Rowell Boulevard from the west here, this is more of a single-family experience. So you come in, these lighter buildings are single-family lots, and then you see one of these cottage courts here. Like I showed you, there's another cottage court. There's some townhouses that face down the pond here, and then we've got a group of townhouses here that face into this big civic space as part of our green network. And then here in these lighter buildings, we have areas for what we're calling large-scale multifamily. And the intention there is to, while we have a full range of mix of housing types throughout the project, there's only so much you can do by having the housing types vary to get the sort of real variety. So what we're hoping to do is have workforce housing be part of this, but instead of just sort of tucking it away, it's all tied into our road network here. And in fact, and you could argue that it's actually part of one of the nicest pieces of property on the site is given to the workforce housing. They're actually facing onto the pond here, and then their clubhouse building would be here. So it all ties in. Again, another cottage court. Here's another neighborhood center. There's a mix of the single family and some of these apartment houses that look like single family houses. And you know, at the end of the day, what we want it to do is feel like a natural extension of the historic city. This is a view looking down that road into that park where the silo is featured. These are some live-work buildings here, some townhouses across, and a single-family building there. And you start to see, walkable streets, sidewalks, sustainable stormwater planters all throughout. This is a view looking sort of from the YMCA area. There's the roundabout, and so we're showing a multifamily apartment house here, some live-work buildings, and then coming into townhouses, and then the single-family houses, and then you see the existing preserved area with the creek down below there. Again, parking tucked away in an artful way. This is one of our neighborhood parks over the west side that I showed you guys. You see here is like a fire pit and Adirondack chairs like you guys have outside. And then you see how we mix in single-family houses and an apartment house and some townhouses all within the same area. This is one of our tiny house cottage courts, and this is actually looking down. This is that pond. The workforce apartments that I was talking about would be back behind those trees there. And these tiny houses as well face onto that pond. And this is a view of what our mixed-use town center area up near the intersection of Charlotte Rowell and 11 might look like. So we've obviously got a lot of civic space and our preserved open space and our parks and plazas and green spaces. So out of the 105 acres, we've got about 34 of those acres in civic or open space, which is pretty exciting for a project of this size. As Brad mentioned, we have all these different access points, so that helps us distribute our traffic, so we're not putting all of our load in any one spot. Our road circulation network here has a couple of primary roads and then our secondary, more intimate neighborhood streets. And then even within those streets, we actually, part of the character that we're trying to accomplish, we have a very detailed way that each of the streets is designed to create a certain character, so every level of complexity as we go. As I mentioned, being able to walk to your daily needs and daily uses. So this shows a 5-minute walking circle. The average person can walk about 5 minutes, 1,320 feet, a quarter of a mile in 5 minutes. And so these are, this is on the silo park here, and this is on a neighborhood center park over here. And you see how all the houses fit within those circles. This is a breakdown that Brad just showed you of the different uses and types as well. This as well. So the regulations in the pattern book, I think you may find are more thorough than what you are used to seeing. We tend to want to really dial it all in and make sure that it's clear as to what we're trying to do. So these, each of these different character areas that were shown on the map would have their own specific set of standards. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach. That's how you end up with that sort of authentic placemaking approach. And so we've got our different typologies that are shown, setbacks and heights and all of that. And this is just a sampling. We have what we call frontage types, how the building addresses the street, so porches and stoops and courts, and we have building types and townhouses, single-family houses, mixed-use buildings, and they all have standards that go along with them. And then within the document, there are all these other standards for encroachments and accessory uses, parking standards, loading, lighting, thoroughfares, bikes, on and on and on. So these are the pages those are on. So if you all, wanted to go reference some of those, you can see where they are. Infrastructure strategy. We've done a sort of preliminary traffic analysis just to make sure there wasn't anything unexpected. We have our major entry points off of Charlotte Rowell and 2 off of 11. The projections account for that sort of synergy between the mix of uses. So we're able to that internal capture concept that I talked about a minute ago, and those are all based on the National Highway Research Program report. We've got our sustainable stormwater strategies throughout. It's, what we want to do is take something that's normally functional and turn it into something that's beautiful and part of the character and the placemaking. So we're incorporating low-impact design standards, things like pervious pavers and bioswales, rain gardens, et cetera. We'll have a targeted application based on, what's going on, what the uses are in that area, what character we're trying to create, and what the land is actually telling us. We'll have a 3-phase erosion plan, so have, initial, intermediate, and final phases of construction. So we're capturing and treating everything as it goes through the network. And then having our management practices, of course, meeting the Georgia Stormwater Management Manual. We have our existing sewer mains. We'll be tying into that. There it runs along Mountain Creek and extends to the right-of-way of Charlotte Rowell. And then our water main can be tied into, we have a loop kind of coming through and going across the site for proposed development. We have our overhead power lines. They're quite robust and that are right behind the public shopping center. So we'll be tapping into all of that as well. And then just to wrap it up, our inspiration, some places you may have seen, Serenbe, not too far outside of Atlanta, in Chattahoochee Hills. They've done a beautiful job of working with the existing vegetation and turning the natural features of the site into features of the community, and also having a great mix of uses of housing types, et cetera. Here's some examples of that. It's a really beautiful place. This is Habersham outside of Beaufort, South Carolina. Again, just sort of top-notch placemaking. Even cute little post office in there, and live-work buildings. And this is an apartment development called Riverside in Atlanta. And this is actually single use. These are only apartments, but they've done a magnificent job, I think, of making a multifamily project that really has placemaking incorporated into it. The apartments are facing onto these parks and plazas, and they have, some of them have ground floor uses, but mostly it's just multifamily. And then Glenwood Park is a nice little sort of pocket scale neighborhood in Atlanta that has, again, a mix of uses and parks and trails and things. So with that, I'll wrap it up.
Questions?
I think you mentioned to begin with, but I'm just curious to where you would begin the development, which phases that would incorporate actual residential and then some of the commercial. Where would that be in this plan? Where would it start?
Can we pull back up the phasing plan? Is that possible? Oh, to the map? Thank you. There we go. It's not in here.
Did you have it in your, there?
Oh, there we go. So, no, yeah, we don't have it in this one. But I can point. Well, actually, Erica, why don't you, can you point? Diagram for phasing. So that's exactly right.
So phase 1 would begin approximately in this area. And then we have phase 2 up in our commercial areas up at the top. Phase 3 is going to be primarily that residential area where we have a lot of single family and apartment house type uses, townhomes in here. And then ending off in phase 4.
Yeah, so what we wanted to do in that phase 1 is, we got this existing infrastructure connecting into the Pavilion Shopping Center. And because, let me go back to here, we have sort of a pretty good representation of a lot of the different types of housing that are going to be provided. We wanted to, kind of kick this off. But I think realistically, what you'll find is this is going to be so desirable that, we may be needing to do some of the phases concurrently. That some of the single-family stuff we'll really want to get started. And so we'll have this infrastructure. I think the first phase infrastructure goes all the way down this road, right, and connects. And so from a development perspective, obviously it behooves the developer to build the units along that road as well, so you don't just have a road that's expensive without anything to sell along it. That makes sense?
That's helpful. I know you can't come up with a number, but build out would be how many years, you think?
1,062 is what's shown on this plan right now.
I mean, in terms of years?
Oh, years, sorry.
Yes, sorry.
I don't know. I mean, again, like I
I
said,
know it's a guess.
it's one of those things where you guys are a growing location, and this is a one-of-a-kind project, so I imagine there's gonna be quite a lot of interest, but we wanna do it right, you know, we don't wanna rush and just sort of throw up anything, so. What were the projections we were using? We didn't have to do, yeah, so, we're not really thinking about it in that way. I mean, I guess we'll have a better answer as we get down the road, so. Apologies.
Thanks.
So you haven't projected a time frame for completion of phase one?
Discussions you all are having here, as far as when we can, as well, you know, so.
Because I believe in the paperwork, the big apartment complex is supposed to be phase one.
It will be part of it,
Okay.
yep.
I have a fear that if we don't include the commercial district or the single family at the same time, and let's say a recession hits, we're just left with an apartment complex.
Yeah.
And I'm not a huge fan of that.
Right.
You know, we're wanting the whole thing, not just a portion.
Right. I mean, I guess the large multifamily is part of the first phase, but it isn't the entirety of the first phase, I think. So, Brad, is there a way to pull up that phasing diagram?
Yeah, they can end my presentation. You can pull that back up if you don't mind, Eli.
Good thing you'll have a nice looking logo.
Let's see.
You should see some cities' logos.
Oh, it looks like we're back to square one, so hang on. There. That was the phasing plan.
Yeah, there you go. So all of that green area is phase one.
Now, are y'all selling each parcel off to a different developer to do this, or is there one developer doing everything?
Right now, there's just the one owner, and I think probably what will happen is, you know, we'll have builders come in who are, you know, interested in, like, they do single family, or these, or do, you know, townhouses or whatever, but because the way the project is so intermingled, all the different types, it's, there's gonna be a bit of coordination for that, so it'll, you know, require sort of a master developer approach to it. So, you know, with a project like this, it can go a number of ways. You know, so, I mean, some projects like this will, you know, actually sell finished lot end users, and then some will sell to builders. Some will do a combination of things, so you get your kind of absorption by selling groups of lots, but then also selling some retail to, you know, homeowners who want to design their own house or do whatever. So it's so early on, we hadn't really gotten into that level of thinking. But that's kind of part of why the first phase is all these different product types instead of it just being one thing. So in that regard, you know, it's going to require multiple hands involved in developing it. Right?
So if I'm correct, so if they're gonna build the apartments, phase one, everything that else is green in there, which is your townhomes and some single family, I believe.
Yep.
Another developer will come in at the same time and build that, correct?
That would be awesome, yeah. There's nothing that requires anything to happen first, right?
Okay.
So that's just, you know, and again, I mean, phase one, when you're doing an application like this, you are making assumptions about where we're going to phase it. And so, you know, for all we know, there may be a huge demand for the commercial stuff to happen. And so phase 1 and 2 are happening concurrently, or phase 1 and 4 or whatever. So there's a bit of being opportunistic about it, you know, and what, you know, who comes to the table at the time. And then there's also kind of the good sense of where's the infrastructure. So we want to, you know, follow that. So that's part of why it's laid out the way it is. It's mostly based on infrastructure.
So did I hear you correctly? You only have one developer at the moment?
We have the landowner right now.
Sorry.
We just have the landowner right now. So, Mr. Rowell.
Is parking for all of your residential areas on the street
Not all of it, but there's on-street parking also, just to make that sort of safe and walkable street. But we've also got, of course, garages and, on-site parking as well. Is that what you mean?
Any other questions? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll have to ask if there was anyone present to speak in opposition to this request. Seeing none, entertain a motion.
I move we approve.
With conditions.
With staff recommendations, right?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
He asked about it, there were, with staff recommendations.
Yes.
Staff recommendations.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, no. Request is approved. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Aye.